Hello and welcome, friends of gaming and sailing!
Oh, so eSail, short introduction to this sailing simulator. They basically say this is the most realistic sailing simulator there is. Not going to argue. There are certain points where I would be a little bit more cautious with this statement. But overall, yes, it's a sailing simulator. As you can see, it has quite extensive tutorial from getting started, basic of controls, steering, lines, raising mainsail, even anchoring and everything. So it has a lot of tutorials that really get you through an interesting way. And I can say when it comes to learning handling a sailboat, learning the lines on a sailboat, for example, especially on this modern sort of racer cruisers that they have in here, I think, to my knowledge, that's the best that you can get. Um, we will get into a start, or we will. I will show you shortly how this works. Um, Again, so you have the tutorials, very good. I highly recommend to do them. For example, anchoring tutorial is great. Then there are some challenges that they added, so it's still expanding, it's still developing. Locations, you have a few locations, and that would be the difference to sail away. And I'll make a video on difference between eSail and sail away. But in general, you would like to have eSail as a tutorial educational simulator, while sail away is really more this cruising. You can definitely, there is learning in sail away as well. It's good as well. I would differentiate those two. eSail is really more a simulator to learn things, while Sailaway is more a simulator where you really sail. I mean, you can in Sailaway go across the whole world. You just have the whole globe. Here you have a couple of locations. So there's live sailing. You can put yourself in an environment and sail. Usually it's just around an island or a couple of islands. There is not a lot of variation in here. You see there are just few locations, like 4 locations. And there is the sandbox part. So let's get into the sandbox. Let's look around. Let's see how this works, and let's introduce eSail. As I said, a lot of tutorials. They will show you how to work the line, how to do everything in here, and then you basically can jump in and can start train. So you could, for example, look up the sheet and see how you run trains. Not really good, right? So you can start working on that. I would sort of estimate this looks like to me like a 30-ish, 30 to 40-ish cruiser, racer cruiser sailboat with all the lines into the cockpit. You can see when you jump in, you see that there is this warning sign, so you have to change the view. Now you get your compass. If you declick the green arrow, you turn off the autopilot, and you can start sort of, steering a little bit. Be careful, it's quite sensitive. That's the point where I disagree with the most realistic sailing simulator is, because to me, for example, the steering wheel is hypersensitive. So you press the D key on your keyboard, and to me, it's really quite sensitive. Maybe a little bit too much sensitive. It's quite easy to swing around the boat, and since you have no feedback, no physical feedback, that's a little bit the downside. I would definitely make it less sensitive if I would be the developer. But other than that, you can see we have a nice speed of 4.1 knots. You have an engine on this machine, and you can turn it on and off. And with W and S keys, you can, or with the mouse, you can basically, now let's turn the engine on, and let's try to add some speed. See, now we are motor sailing. Let's turn it off. Keyboard T, you turn it on and off. And let's look around. So you have this map, and it doesn't change. So you have really this one area that you are sailing around. For learning, it's enough. no arguments here. There's a lot of things that you can learn, and the tutorials will get you through. So you will navigate these narrow channels, you will anchor, and you will sail cursors here and traces. So everything is possible, but it's like, you know, after a while, it's just the same environment over and over again. One thing that is interesting for people who will just casually sail or who, you know, try to trim their sails and not so sure how, there is this auto sail button, which will actually, it's really good, and it will let the crew handle the sheet, and they get it quite right, quite optimal. Let's see what we do. Speed 4, 4.2, 4.5. Definitely better than I did. So you can use this option. Now you can go back to the view, set your autopilot, and you know the boat is really rocking its way. Now there is one point of criticism that I have with all of those simulators, and that is the controls. It's not just the sensitivity, right? You have no feedback. It would be great if they would work more with console controls, because they can give you some haptic feedback. But as well, the issue that I have, let's turn off the auto sail here. If you really wanna work the lines yourself, you know, you can choose those. You can choose those lines. And then you really have to like, okay, so I'll try to use the winch by my hand. Now you get there, now the percentage, and you drag it with the mouse up and down, and you know, it's in this sort of calm conditions, it's good. But if you really want to be fast, if you really want to, you know, compete, this gets slow. So my major criticism here would be the controls. Though I can understand it's not easy, because you have a mouse, you have a keyboard, that's what I'm working with right now. And to actually get it working in a way that it makes sense, that it's fast, that's not easy. That's not easy. And therefore for example, I'm a more traditional single-handed sailboat guy, and I like simple lines and simple sail. So working these lines, detailed, yes. Maybe the most details that the simulators will give you, but definitely not easy. There's a steep learning curve. You know, for example, I don't need hands to see how they work it. I really want to see, okay, I go in here, take a line, take a breaker, for example. Here's no breaker, sure. But if I go in here, you know, open, close, this is something that I really want to work fast. But other than that, you can see, you can look around, see your sail, see your speed. I mean 6.3, nice, I mean, nice speed. Look around the boat, look around the environment. Yep, there is not much variation to the environment. The boat itself is always the same, not much to do, but it works. It really works. You can play with it really a lot. And the responses of the sails to the trimming of the line is fast. Let's see if I can pull something in here. That was my mind. Jib sheet 44. Okay, let's give it a try here. Sheet. By hand. See, it responds immediately. If I would, you know, no longer be able to do it by hand, which you get to about 60-70% of the trim, then you know you can go with a winch. It works as well. That's okay. And now I've done it wrong and it goes to speed. That doesn't matter. So it really works. It's really nice. You can cruise, but it's not this form of relaxing sailing that you get from Sailboat. This is really more a tutorial base, so let's change the view again, let's take out autopilot. Oh, now I can sort of steer the boat carefully, because it's very sensitive. Like you see, I pressed twice, very short time, the A button, and it really already in there. What is good, once you get to the point where you wanna sort of have to put in the autopilot, manually steering this with the sensitivity is hard. So that's a very short introduction to the eSail. You have one boat, basically one environment, but a lot of possibilities working the lines. You have your engine, you can anchor. There is even VHF enabled. So how to navigate the game itself? So whatever you open, you will always have this left box. If you go on the 3 lines here, put the auto sail in so that it goes its way. You can go back to the tutorials and challenges. You can go to live sailing. You have settings and you have this sandbox environment that gives you a lot of options. So you can enable and disable the asymmetric. So a lot of options. You can reset your boat. This really, if you wanna train something specific, this is great. There is music on the background that I disabled, and it wasn't so easy to find where to disable the music, so let me show you. If you go into the settings, you have the general settings, resolution, quality, and so on. Now, music is separated, so you don't have like a drag button for music, but you have to select what you want. Honestly, every of those tracks gets annoying after a few minutes, so I just disabled it. So that's for the options. There is much more inside, right? Boat settings and crew. Quite detailed. It's just one field where you just scroll down and you have everything in there. That's nice. You can have a multiplayer session. Works as well. And yeah, that's about the boat. It's it's not a lot of to be seen. It works. So you are in your cockpit, you have your cockpit view, you can set your autopilot, remove your autopilot, you can work with your engine, everything there. So you have the breakers, it's quite detailed. So if you want to go back, you just go back here and you can go to live selling, challenges like mentioned, and quick start. Now, I highly recommend to really go through the introductions, the tutorials that will teach you how to handle the game. It's not handling the boat and handling the game. It's still a simulator, right? So, one of the biggest downsides of every simulator is just missing the physical feedback that you get once you pull a line or once you steer a ball, an immediate response, or if it's big or not that immediate, but you always have some feedback. Here, this is more suited for people that don't own a boat, that maybe don't have a friend that owns a boat, but wanna learn to sail. And it depends where you are, but usually if you wanna learn to sail, you need to get some license. And the license usually as well has some practical tests. And that's what I have done with my license for sailing, right? So I've gone there, learned the theory. Sure, I paid to practice, but then I really used these simulators to understand the lines. So when I came to the test boat, I knew what is left, what is right. I knew that how to recognize a jib sheet and main sheet. I mean, for sailors, this must be really laughable, right? I mean, they know it obviously, but if you really start, and I'm in a land that is basically without a sea access, and we don't even have big lakes, and if sailing really gets you and you want to start somewhere, I mean, such a simple thing like recognizing the lines. Isn't that easy for you? If your father wasn't sailing, no one in the family is sailing, you really want to start on your own. Renting a boat is horribly expensive. Everybody knows, and they don't rent you a boat without those certifications anyway. So if you really want to get started, if you want to get the basics understanding, this is really good. I mean, honestly, I cannot say it definitely expands your understanding and knowledge. And what the simulators do as well, you will not see it here because the environment is gone. You know, it gives you a certain sense of wind speeds, and you know, when the seas get more up, it rocks more. I will not say it. I'm not comparing it to reality. The biggest gusts I was sailing in was 30 knots, so I've never been in anything stronger because I still don't own a boat. I can say that, you know, you get a feeling in the simulators for the worsening conditions and the responses of the boat, and although it's not the same to the reality, it's definitely better than never been in a simulator. And don't forget that professional captains on those big cruise ships, they spend time on simulators as well. So simulators are not a toy. This is not a toy. This really is more than a game, because as a game it gets boring quite fast. But it is a educational tool, and as an educational tool, with the limitations that you get, it's really good. So if somebody asks me, so should I get SailAware or should I get eSail? I'll be honest, I have both. They are not cheap, and they are usually not they are not really discounted. But I would say get both if you can. And if you wanna prepare for exams, if you wanna learn the lines, go with eSail. If you want to get a better experience of sailing, go with SailAway, because you can put the location there. You can go to the Bahamas, put your boat in the You'll be there. You can. It takes the daylight, and you also sail at night, in the ocean at night, and you can be there and stay. So, as a game, SailAway gives you much more. From a tutorial perspective, eSail. And that is how I would end it, and I will make a comparison with it. So, thank you everybody for watching, and have a great day.